You know, I've always thought that living out by the sea would be peaceful, but these eldritch abominations just won't leave me alone. Hey people, voice talking to you, and today we're looking at Static Dread. This is a Papers, Please style horror sim where we play as a lonely lighthouse keeper in the midst of a Lovecraftian apocalypse. If you'd like to check this game out for yourself or download the demo, there's a link for you down in the description. Right next to that is a link to my full playthrough stream just in case you want to see some more gameplay and my first impressions. We play as a typical guy who leaves behind his wife and daughter when he's chosen by the New England Port Authority to serve as the new lighthouse keeper. In an age of automation, this position should be mostly ceremonial, but recently the world has been blanketed by a mysterious geomagnetic aurora. These eerie lights interfere with compasses and navigational instruments, making our job critical to the survival of any ships approaching the shoreline at night. On top of our usual duties of keeping the lighthouse lit and functional, we're tasked with deciding where to send each ship and safely navigating them to the correct port. Now, that all sounds simple enough until we begin to realize that there might be something supernatural to the lights in the sky. Before long, we're facing looming shadows outside our windows and the awful secrets of the coastline, the lighthouse, and the sea itself. Visually, this game isn't anything groundbreaking, but the hand-drawn style still fits the theme and carries the same ominous vibes of games like The Long Dark or Dredge. It's simple, sure, but it's still plenty effective when it comes to bringing the cozy vibes at dusk or the paranoia of midnight. Now, there's plenty more I want to say about the overall feel of this game and the story that guides it, but first, let's get you settled into your new job as the island's lighthouse keeper. There's a few rules every wiki needs to know when starting out. Rule number 1, don't fall asleep. It can be hard to stay awake all night, so if you start feeling drowsy, you should grab a snack or a drink to wake yourself up. The courier will bring you supplies every couple of days, so don't blow through all your food all at once. As long as you don't tell the boss, you can also buy some food from the local fishermen or even upgrades to your workstation, such as a tape player or coffee maker from the courier. Of course, you'll need your paycheck to buy things, so try not to rack up too many fines. Rule number 2, answer the radio on time. Each night, ships will approach the lighthouse looking for directions. Feel free to ask them about the conditions of their ship, their crew, or where it is they're going. Though, with things being how they are, you may get some unusual answers. Remember, you are the only authority as to where these ships will go, and considering the Aurora, their lives are literally in your hands. When a ship arrives, they'll fax you their manifest and a map of the coastline. You simply need to draw a route from their position to the correct port you decided on and send it back. It's super simple and maybe a little too easy overall. Each morning you'll receive the local news and any additional information you may need to help you decide where to send them. Some may need to check in with the Coast Guard, or may be carrying something bizarre that's best sent to the nearby laboratory. What the hell is that? What is that? Ugh. Just make sure you follow the instructions and you'll avoid any unnecessary fines. Well, the last keeper did mention something about hearing strange voices through the radio static. Those voices did seem to know things that he couldn't have otherwise, or maybe it was just luck. Either way, it'll be up to you to decide who to trust. Rule number 3, don't let anyone else into the lighthouse. Locals from the nearby village may come to visit you from time to time, out of boredom mostly. Seems like they have nothing better to do. Why? Why? Or maybe there's something they need, but under no circumstances are you to allow them into the lighthouse, no matter how much they beg. No, you can't come in. Not even for an old sailor's tradition. Get lost. Not even if they're being chased by an angry mob. No means no. Not even if the voices outside are threatening to consume them and they say they're just gonna sit on your porch and cry when you shut the door on them. No! The final and most important rule, never let the lights go out. You may have visitors at night, shadows or people trying to get in through the windows to switch off the lighthouse, the generator, the antenna, or even the lights in your rooms. So keep your eyes and ears sharp for any movement or sounds that might alert you to their approach. If they do manage to switch something off, you need to turn it on as fast as possible. The darkness isn't just dangerous to passing ships. Remaining in the darkness can be detrimental to your mental state, and people around the world have been going missing in the darkness at night, so stay vigilant, stay alert, and stay alive. There are other rooms around the lighthouse that will likely have an impact on the game in the future. For example, there's a closet we can hide in and a revolver we could eventually purchase from the courier, assuming he survives long enough to sell it to us. Now, I mentioned that the task of guiding ships is pretty simple, and aside from watching out for power outages or shadowy monsters sneaking in, there isn't a ton for us to actually do aside from listening to random radio broadcasts. To be fair, that is actually pretty cool. There's a lot of world building going on there, but the real charm of this game doesn't have anything to do with its gameplay loop. This title does a great job of building a sense of paranoia and existential dread, but the scares are pretty simple, and they don't really rely on startling the player. It doesn't bother me at all, but horror fans looking for something to kick up their adrenaline won't find it here. Overall, the game's just not that scary. No, the real reason I'm so in love with the idea of this game is the story. It's impressively original, remarkably immersive, and wholly unpredictable. Every choice the player makes will have an impact on the story as a whole, and it'll lead to further decisions in the future. I had a hard time seeing the vision at first. I mean, what kinds of decisions would a lighthouse keeper even make that could impact the wider world? I never expected ships carrying eldritch amphetamines to be coming into port, connected to a corrupt port, or even a cartel spreading into the streets of the very city where our wife and daughter live. These decisions are actually morally challenging. It's not just choosing between good and evil, it's deciding whether to send relief supplies into our town for our sick daughter or send them north to prevent a greater plague from spreading there. It's deciding whether to bring a wounded boy home to his cultist father who might be able to save him, or trust his scientist girlfriend at the lab to save him from the wicked affliction that our own actions may have caused him. Now, considering how much I love Lovecraft's work and how many games I've played, it's not easy to make a story that I've never seen before. This game not only pulled that off, but completely sucked me in. Sure, some choices are between taking a fine or helping someone, but the big decisions are really tough. Even the eerie voice on the radio static seems to make an awful lot of sense sometimes. Now, if you're like me, you might ignore the voice purely out of spite, because let's be real, I would get awfully tired of eldritch monstrosities breaking into my house when all I heard from sailors was about the weird sounds from the sea or the mobs of mutated humanoids running rampant through the streets. Guide me to the port. I'll make sure the chief disappears. There you go. Dummy. You're only making it worse for yourself, Keeper. Give it to me, or I will consume you. Yeah. As far as improvements to the game go, there definitely needs to be some more depth to the actual gameplay mechanics. Maybe adding a timer like in Papers, Please would make players more frantic and challenge them to make decisions in the heat of the moment, because the only finds I actually ended up with were the results of choices I made rather than careless mistakes. It also didn't seem like the number of ships that came through mattered to our pay, and drawing lines on a map isn't a super interesting game mechanic on its own. I'd also like to see more upgrades to our lighthouse and maybe more threat to our person as our sanity stretched thin. Now, would I still play this game even if those issues aren't addressed? Absolutely. The story and world building of this game are absolutely wonderful, and I wish I could share more of it with you without spoiling it. By the end of it, I didn't really care that all I was doing was drawing lines. Those lines decided life and death, monsters and twisted science, maybe even the end of the world. Personally, I cannot wait for this game to release so I can see the rest of this story. But I'm also just the voice in your head, so what do you think about Static Dread? Do you like the slow burn story games like this one, or are you looking for a bit more excitement? Is the immersive story here enough to catch your interest, or do you want more depth to the mechanics? Let's talk down in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, leaving a like helps get the channel through the algorithm and keeps the shadow monsters from shutting off my damn lights again. What did you turn off now? Stop it. If you want more, subscribing is the best way to support the channel and keep new content coming your way, because I put out new stuff every week. Thanks so much for listening to me today, and you'll be hearing from me again real soon.